You're listening to the Go Lightly Martial Hour on freedomtalkradio.net.
Perfect. All right, we are on air with show 91. It's Tuesday, the 26th of August, 2014, Australia time, about 10:45, so having to record this so we can get it up in time to the platform. Now, Ya's been working on another brilliant PowerPoint. Would you like to give us a synopsis?
As everything I do, is very difficult to explain because it is basically covering about several items at the same time to show the synchronicity of how numbers relate. For example, if you take the highest mountain in Sri Lanka, and the reason I'm doing Sri Lanka, because that is the oldest account of Noah's flood. And as I said the other day, the name of the highest mountain is Pidura Tal Agala. So that is 24 metres. But the gematria for that name is 144. So that would then line up with the 144,000 on the pyramid that's been stripped.
That's right.
This is the 7-ton limestone, pure alabaster, which has a burn rate of 444 degrees, which is the same material they used in Limelight. When they did the stages in England, they had a carbon rod with a piece of alabaster, limestone, and it would draw an arc through it, and of course being sturdy, the light would burn for a very long period of time before they had to do anything with it. But the burn temperature was 444 degrees, which is in Revelation 13:18, 444 being man, the certain man, as when we have the Son of Man, as talking as a distinctive Son of, being the only one of, being the Son of God. We're talking about the Jesus number, and it's a measure of the man, and blah, 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 on it goes. So 2 times 444 is 888, which is the gematria for Jesus. So we measure from the highest mountain in Sri Lanka, which is where the oldest story of the Noah's flood occurs, because it's talking in the Hindi tradition, which was handed down from the Essenes, because Hindi is actually Essene. And what it's talking about is the time Noah was on the ark. Also why he released the raven, because the raven represents blackness, and it's a meat eater, so it's the devil. And it flies at a very high altitude, 22,000 feet. It's got telescopic vision. It can look back at the ark with one eye and look forward on the other eye towards any land that could be on the horizon. And so it comes back. When it's sent out a second time, it doesn't come back, so therefore Noah seen which way the ark was in relationship to the bird flying off. So therefore he then sends the dove. The dove flies out, because it doesn't go as high, but it flies in the same direction, and it can then smell the land as it's peeping out from the flood. So as it arrives there, it goes to the olive branch and snips it off and brings it back. So that's the amount of olives in the book of Matthew, and the olives represent human beings. So the dove comes back, and it's the same dove and olive is the actual martial coat of arms, and the word martial is from the Hebrew marshal or marashal or marshal, which means parable. That's why Jesus said everything in parables, which he's saying everything was said in marshals, right? So we have this synergy of what you would call coincidence if you're an idiot, or truth if you're actually seeing with wide open eyes of truth. So we then see the distance from Pit Ur Tal Agala, which is 24 metres high, has a value of 144, which is Revelations 144,000 saints which follow in white garments the Messiah when he comes to the earth, and that is getting back to Isaiah 63. Why Isaiah 63, 1 through to 6? That's the difference in age between Golightly, grandfather, and myself in years, which is 23229 days, which is the area of the base of the pyramid discovered by Lieutenant Cook when he was in Tahiti waiting for the transition of Venus, right? This which occurred on the 3rd of June 1769, and that was an 11-tiered pyramid which the English then returned and destroyed it. So that's half as big as a football field, but thanks to Cook being pedantic, he wrote it down and he got the measurements, and that's what it is. 23229 days. How many days between my grandfather and myself, Golightly. So then you've got James, who knew that he wasn't true line of kings, James the Sixth of Scotland becoming James the First of England, and he referred to the Sabbath, changing the manuscript that he and William Shakespeare, who was Edward de Vere, the 17th Earl of Oxley, worked on for 18 months, presented to him by the Freemasons, and the Freemasons beheaded his mother, so he's getting even, right? So what they put in there was some marvellous codes. There's over 1,000 I've been looking at for a start. So the King James Bible is sacred. Don't change it, because it's a work of evil. That is, all you do is you just see where they've changed and what the codes are that King James put in there. And because King James put in 115 Sabbaths with the lowercase s, which no one, when you write a Sabbath, you will never ever would you write a lowercase s with the word Sabbath anytime, right? Even in a mid-sentence, it's always capital S, like New York, right? Capital N.
Well, Saturday.
So he put in 115 of them, or manipulated to 115, and that's how the gematria for the word Golightly, because he knew his second cousins, and his second cousin was Golightly, who was a true king. Right? He knows the history of all that. So when we get to measuring from the highest mountain in Sri Lanka to the highest mountain in Australia, which is Mount Kosciuszko, it's 22.28 metres high, and I was 22.28 years old. So we look at that in the number of days, which I'll just do it now. 22.28 times, and you must get this right. It's got to be 365.2424, because that's the base of the pyramid, and it's 8137.6006. So you then take off the word Shem. Why? Because the distance to Kosciuszko from the highest mountain in Sri Lanka is the number for Shem. Right? So we looked that up in Hebrew, and what do we get? In the usual style, what they've done in Luke 3, it's only mentioned once in the New Testament, Luke 3:36, which was the son of Canaan, which was the son of Asphak, which was the son of Shem, S-E-M, not S-H-E-M as it should be, which was the son of Noe, which should be N-O-A-H, or no, they put N-O-E, which was the son of Lamech, who lived 777 days in the last city of the holy cities. And there's 777 cities in the Bible, King James 16:11 only, all others have been changed, to give you the word Lamech, because he lived 777 years, and he was an Essene, as was Noah, as was Job, as was Isaiah, as was Daniel. Right? They're all Essenes. Right? That's why you know, by the way they word the writings and how the codes are in them, they're easy to find. Right? So what we have then, we take the one number for Shem, which is in the Old Testament, it's got 4590, that's the distance in nautical miles between the two mountains, and it's S-E-M, it's written as pronounced S-A-M-E, same, and of Hebrew origin 8035, so we subtract the 8035 from the 8137.6006, my age when I married, the harlot of Lithgow, which is in 1966 on the 23rd of April, and 1966 we know is in Hebrew Lucifer. So I've always said to Lucifer, give it your best shot. I will marry the worst despicable swine on the earth and produce children out of it, which I said the other day, which is a bit crude, right? So I won't say it again, because I just had a heart on all night, was the problem. So anyhow, better to root it than pull it, one might say, as chickens might say.
But you're not saying it again.
And I'm not doing it again, so I'm not saying it again. So, okay. So we take away the 8035, and we get 1026, and we look up to 1026. So it's 1026, and what do we have? In Greek, the word is briko, a primary verb, to moisten, especially by a shower, send forth rain.
Rain, wash.
That's what Shem is all about. So therefore, when you read your account of the missing tribes of Israel and all this kind of stuff, it's got nothing to do with the Shemites. These are the descendants of the marriage of Sodom and Gomorrah with the Ammonite and the Moabite through Solomon. Who married 700 women, or vice versa, 700 concubines and 300 women he married. And of course he's mixing the blood, and of course all his 10 tribes, northern tribes, all mix their blood with the same Ammonite and Moabite, because they're good enough for Solomon. And also the Lord of the Old Testament, the Satan, demands that you take all the women and virgins, and the women that haven't slept with anybody, you take them for yourself and kill all the males. This is what is coming out of the mouth of the one that is supposed to be giving orders to Jesus. Hello? That ain't happening. Why? Jesus said, I said. Right? As Jesus, the soul of Jesus. If you've seen God, you've seen me. No one has seen God. Right? You're looking at him. Jesus speaking. Moses wasn't hearing from God. Right? Didn't happen. So the Essenes, they dreamed dreams. And what did they say? There was no actual physical God standing there talking to them, as on Mount Sinai. Right? They even got Mount Sinai wrong. Where it is, it's on the other side, it's in Arabia. So the big story is then it's all bullshit. Hello? So, as it controls the masses through the Jews that invented Zionism, a gross, monstrous religion, it all stems out of Babylon. But Babylon only goes back to, at the time of the Pharisee priests, it only goes back to maximum 500 BC, because before that they were decent. That's when the Pythagoras went there. He studied the pyramid for 20 odd years. Right? That's how pedantic he was. Yes. He wandered around through Iran and all these places, Iraq. A total of 35 years he was away. He was captured by the Babylonian army and taken to Babylon, and where he soon made his intelligence dominate, and he educated how to read the stars, because it's all in the pyramid. So the Magi, by the time of Jesus, there was this battle goes on in the secret religion that backed up and hid themselves in the Pharisees, that by the time of the Magi coming to Bethlehem, they knew, because these were Essene descendants, right? And they were competing with, at the same time, as the secret Babylonian religion. Kennedy mentioned it, in fact, that's what got him killed. The world, he said, there's no place for. Actually, you should play it one of these days. Kennedy's speech, it's brilliant. One of the best speeches I've ever heard. That he's saying is that in a free and democracy, you shouldn't have any need for or tolerate any of these secret religions. Secret societies. Which is the Jews, which is Freemasonry, and any other, Catholic or whatever, Jesuits. Right? If you're Catholic, you knew all about it. You're a very smart man. So this is what the result was. So what we're doing today is talking about what happened prior to Babylon by over 3,000 years. And we see that if we start counting lunations, it goes back to lunation, or the year, minus 3376, which in Hebrew is the word moon, because that's when the flood occurred, and that's when the moon began, because the moon was punched out when Mars bumped into the Earth. Why? There's the solar system drifts back and forwards from the northern hemisphere of the Milky Way galaxy to the southern hemisphere of the Milky Way galaxy, and then reverses and comes back up again. And we've just crossed over on the 11th of December 2011, and time was out by 375 days, and Noah was on board the ark for 375 days. Right? You use the Gregorian calendar, not because it's right, because it is the base of the pyramid, the 365.24, which is 100 solar years. So, Noah, being a Essene, was on board the ark from the dates that you can calculate, and it turns out to be 375 days. What was it, 27th of February back in time to the...
well, they talk in the first...
7th of February, was it?
The 17th of the... In the 600th year of... No, the 17th day of the 600th year.
That's right, yes. Okay.
Until... rather, the second month in the 600th year, and then he was on there until the 27th day of the second month in the 601st year.
Not Hebrew days, years.
Yeah.
Months.
Yeah.
The moon didn't exist. It was punched out by the collision. Now, how come all the world was caused to be flooded? There's not enough water to flood the whole Earth. How did that happen? Well, if you've got the moon, it goes over and raises the sea up, say, by 20 feet in a high tide to a low tide. In some places of the Earth, it's 50 odd feet. Right? So what would happen if you've got Mars right against the Earth and all the water just poured off Mars onto the North Pole? How many thousands of feet deep would it have been above the normal height of the sea? It would be above Mount Everest. Way above it, thousands of feet above it. So all the water pours out from Mars onto the Earth, and what do you got? This huge amount of water increased by 168 feet average, once it all settled down, but pull it up into a high tide over the Middle East and over the area of Sri Lanka and these places, and the Indian continent, you'd have water 10,000 feet thick. Because Mars is only a couple of 100 miles away from the Earth at that time as it rebounded away from the Earth. As it was coming towards the Earth, all the water was flooding onto the Earth in 40 days. That's the rain, because the water was being pulled by the magnetic field of the Earth. It's a bar magnet, iron and iron. So what happened? The two hit together, formed a bar magnet. Now the impact was buffeted by the huge amount of water between the two, thousands of feet, 20 to 20,000 feet thick. And when the two hit together, it pushed the water all around the Earth, it flooded the whole bloody lot. And also, the high tide was enormous, and the Earth rotated through it, as it would with the moon. Right? So here it is, Mars is now floating away. The width of Mars is 4216, and that number, that's in miles, is 4216. And it is carried away with the flood. Hello! Makes a good tune, doesn't it?
It does.
We're singing a new song of Solomon because Solomon was full of shit. That's why you have to have a new song.
Oh, no,
Not
well,
Solomon.
you're talking Moses. Yeah, Moses.
Well, Solomon's full of shit too.
That reference in the Revelation just demonstrates the influence of the Jews, because I think it's in the Nihilist report before the Protocols of Zion were published. Nihilist talks about the sons of Moses. These are the sons of Moses.
Of course they are, the demons.
The demons. So...
it's got nothing to do with Egypt. Right? The Great Pyramid and the Sphinx and all this thing was built way 7,000 years ago, long before Egyptians even started to think that it could even... Well, they didn't invent the wheel, right? That's as far as they got. They had oxen pulling bloody carts without wheels. So it was two sticks. Right? They learnt the wheel from the invasion, if you like, of the Hyksos people, who were the Palestinians, who were dominating Egypt for 100 years. It's actually mentioned in the Bible.
With their mind.
Later. With their mind. They overcome them, and they were giants. Now, what causes giants? Well, when you got the Mars and the Earth hit together, they both have iron cores, and the iron cores line up. One is spinning faster than the other. One slows down. With the impact, the two line up. You put two magnets together, see how fast they line up, right? So the spinning of the iron core was pulled out of shape, right, of both planets. That's why they now have a solar day of Mars is slightly over 24 hours and the Earth is slightly under. Prior to that, the days were different lengths. But primarily, the iron core was spinning at such a fast rate that the magnetic field that was given off by this fast spinning core of the Earth made gravity much lighter. So there were giants in those days. And in fact, Raymond C. Capt was talking the other day that he found a giant that was 10 feet tall in a museum. Right? And that wasn't...
And this was in England, wasn't it?
Yes. Right? In England, there were giants in England. Well, why? They were Essenes. Very big people. So as time progresses and gravity become higher, you don't grow as big. Right? Now, you see all these prehistoric animals, which did exist at the time of the flood, what happened? They suddenly dropped like
lead balloons.
Lead balloons, and they even have some of the food still in their mouth, and they're frozen. Well, why would that be? Well, you get the two planets coming together, all the air is pushed apart with the water coming down. Right? They couldn't breathe for a start. And then you have the impact, which alters the speed of the rotation of this iron core at the centre of the Earth, and they drop like flies because they're too heavy to stand up. I've looked at these animals in Erville, and I've seen, this is in Utah, and they've got 145 dinosaurs, all sizes and shapes, on a sandbar that is about 145, 150 feet long in this building, and it's tilted up at 60 degrees. And I said to the archaeologist down there, I said, if you drill a hole in that bloody sandbar, where's it pointing? Yucatan. This is talking to the guys directly in a big scary look, right? Suddenly they realised that there was an impact in Yucatan. I said, if you go to Yucatan and look at all the Mayan temples, you'll find they are built on a 165-mile arc on measuring from the coastline of the Yucatan straight into the Mayan area, and you'll find that these are all built on an arc of 165 miles, because that's where the impact occurred. Oh shit moment. It wasn't too long after that there was now talking about this impact that wiped out the dinosaurs 66 fucking million years ago. Sorry, didn't mean to say fuck. Million years ago. Right? I told the stupid bastards, right? But no. They've got to go with the evolution theory. Right? And how the dinosaurs died off, and then man snuck out the house of a sea slug and crawled up onto the earth and evolved and blah, 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 to the bullshit story. When we have our bullshit Bible, which is full of codes put in by William Shakespeare and Edward, who was Edward de Vere, and King James, who was getting even for his mother being beheaded by the Freemasons when he was 21 years of age. And that got him on the throne, ironically, because it was Edward de Vere, who was a righteous man, saw, hey, not having anything of this, and he was the head of the 16-member court of Elizabeth, and she was dying, took two weeks to die, and he said, if you want to go to heaven, you better nominate the beheaded cousin's son, King of Scotland, who was a genuine king of England. So he brought with him he was the king of France, right? He was the king of Ireland, the king of Scotland, right? Become the king of Wales and England. That's what the Union Jack is. Why? His name was Jacques. What's Jacques in English? James. What's James in Hebrew? Jacob. What's Jacob? Israel. Hello. So he was the first king anointed upon the rock of the scone. Now, I'm looking at Raymond C. Capt, which I admire as a brilliant man, but he's stupid in the sense that he doesn't get all the facts. He thinks he does, and he does a good job, but he doesn't. He's taken the Bible literally. Yes. He's stupid. He doesn't realise it's satanic. He doesn't realise that the God of the Old Testament is evil. Right? That's Lucifer. Yapping onto everybody in sight, right? Snapping orders, go kill this, take the virgin for yourself, right? Smash their heads in, kill a man for picking up sticks on the Sabbath, don't like that. Kill a woman for adultery, kill a woman for even looking at a man, doesn't matter. Right? Man can go and shag anyone he likes. Hello, doesn't seem right. I'm not in favour of it. But the fact is, I wouldn't like to get stoned to death for walking down the street and looking at a pretty woman's leg. Now, if a one did that, oh, watch out, you got a problem. Now, in the Kings, the F-U-C-K, which I won't say the word fuck again, means fornication under consent of the king. Right? Did I say it again?
You said it again, babe.
I'm a fucking moron, aren't I? So, what it means is that Henry VIII, good example, his young wife, he had syphilis. She didn't really like him that much because he stunk and he had syphilis. And he was insane, because that's what syphilis does. He beheaded her for sneaking off with a 16-year-old boy around the corner. So what he did, he cut his head off, put it on a pole at the end of the hallway, and led her out to be executed, because there's her lover's head on a pole, and this is what's going to happen to her. That's what that cruel, evil bastard did, and that's the one who destroyed the
Glastonbury Abbey,
where it all happened in the first place, where you got your Glastonbury Bible in there.
The dissolution. The dissolution of the abbeys. They destroyed, 11 of them?
That's right. Now, in those days, what Raymond Capp got it right. He pointed out that Joseph of Arimathea was the uncle of Mary. Therefore, when Joseph died, when Jesus was 12 years age, he's got that from somewhere. I don't think he read it from any of my work, but he certainly come up with that date. And I think he done it wrong before me, because he's dead now. So he said that they were copper and tin miners, and they sailed back and forward to where? Cornwall. Where you take 7 Travone Road, Cornwall, to 7 Travone Street in Sydney, and the distance is 10772.5 bloody miles, and that's the diameter of the Great Pyramid, and it's different in feet. Just take it back 1.10 blah 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 77.25 feet, and then you go and work out the man who died for Jesus Christ, was going to be with Christ, wrote a beautiful letter, was beheaded by these monsters. Again, Charles I, who James said, don't ever become king. I'm telling you, that's all he ever done. But authorise the Bible and don't become king. So his sons. So what happens? He gets beheaded on the 30th of January 1649. If you add 107725 days to that, you get my birthday. Hello. And he's back in my nephew. Apart from that, it's been quite done.
So the bottom line is that the book everybody's reading and stuck in, the Bible, which is what...
Well, that's why they authored it 3 years after they discovered the codes in it, which is kicking out.
Yes, that was a no shit moment.
I reckon, no shit, all right.
But what is holy are the numbers, the chapters, the verses, and the numbers. It's all in the numbers. That's the book within the book.
That's
the book within the book.
From Sri Lanka's highest mountain, Pityu-Atalagala, to Kosciuszko, and the number is Shem, and then you measure from Kosciuszko to the house that I had with Mary Magdalene, the monster, right, that had 7 devils driven out, and watch out when you have 7 devils driven out, because when you come back to the earth again, as a reincarnated body, they're waiting for you, and they're going to bring 7 times 7. So she got 7 times 7 plus the original 7, what's that, 56? So now we've got this woman I can vouch for as dishonest and disloyal and a liar and all the things that I hated. I had to be with her, but she wasn't as bad as I am. Right? I'll give her that. She wasn't as bad as Pauline. I'll give her that. Pauline was a monster, black bitch. Right? Second wife, Pauline. Right? Give you an indication there. Her birthday is the same date that my nephew got shot dead.
Yes, 25th
The synchronicity tells you. And I could see him being killed a week before he died. Right? You couldn't convince him otherwise. Silly old bastard, he He said to me one day, he said, there's no mistakes in the Bible. I said, none whatsoever. How it is, it's got to stay as it is. I'll point out. And he went on the internet and there's thousands of different mistakes in it, right? And that's exactly the point. You didn't get it. If it was perfect, it's only perfect in the numbers. Not perfect in what it says. Like Moses killing a man for picking up sticks on a Sabbath, a low, small s. You don't think King James knew that? So, that's what I've been doing so far.
Well, shall we play Heiko and his beautiful wife. They both have the bluest eyes I've ever seen.
Yeah, they're beautiful people, Germans, of course.
This is a song that's been up on their SoundCloud for about a year, I believe, and was just drawn to my attention this morning, and it's beautiful, so we'll play it. It's dedicated to you. It's all about you. It is in German, but it's dedicated to
the
Yah.
music is beautiful no matter what language you play.
Yes. So I'm going to mute Mike, and we'll play Heiko and Anna singing for Yar.
An meiner Seite, hältst den Schirm auf, wenn der Regen fällt. Und bin ich noch so sehr alleine, bist du der Letzte, der noch zu mir hält. Ja, ich lass mich in dich fallen. Du fängst mich auf, egal aus welcher Not. Ich möchte dir ein Leben lang vertrauen. Von jetzt an bis in den Tod.
Ich habe viele Träume, einige hast du schon wahr gemacht. Und die paar, die noch fehlen, wünsch ich mir weiter, wenn ich wach lieg in der Nacht. Ich geb dir meine Seele, geb dir mein Herz, ich geb dir alles, was ich hab. Ich möchte all deine Bürden tragen, denn am Ende
Nimmst du sie
mir
Okay, wasn't that beautiful? Heiko, if you're hearing this, perhaps you can translate the words into English for us so I can post them. Let us have an idea of that beautiful song that the two of you sang. Your wife has the voice of an angel.
Yeah, she does. Beautiful.
Yes, and the most beautiful blue eyes.
But
Now,
the sense of timing and the rhythm and the stuff.
oh, it's just beautiful. It sounds like music from heaven. Now, speaking of heaven, did you want to say anything else, babe, about what you're working on at the moment?
I could do it. It's very, very complex, as I say. It's something that really has to be looked at. And I go into things like the descending passage of the Great Pyramid, how it looks out towards the serpent in space. And that refers to two things, the dragon. The dragon itself, if you look up the word dragon, you can go through the first 4 books after Genesis, which is all bullshit. Right, that's the one with the 4-legged fowl.
Yeah.
No feet,
Leviticus,
knees,
yeah.
bullshit. Pathetic, to say the least. And it'll give you 1404 number, which I'll explain in another upload. I've already uploaded it, really. But 1404 is dragon in Greek. Now, that's how many lords there are in the first 4 books after. That's Leviticus, Numbers, Exodus, and the other one, whatever that is. So that gives you 1404 times the word Lord is found. And when you look in the New Testament, 1404 is dragon. When you look at the Great Pyramid, which is the altar to the Lord, the descending passage always points towards the North Star up until we started to tilt over due to the approach of new planets coming in with the Nibiru, people known as Nibiru, the red dwarf, fulfilling the Hopi prophecy of the red and blue Kachina. And they're here, we've taken photographs of them already. So then we've got the dragon. So what's a dragon? So we're looking down the descending passage before the Earth started to tilt over, because it's no longer doing it. And it used to look at the North Star. Right before the North Star, which is in Ursa Minor, beside it is a little tiny star, which is YBS 2860. And the number 286 is Lamb. So, Old Testament, towards God are my eyes, looking towards the north. It's referring to the eye of the pyramid, like a telescope looking out into space. And that crosses the axis, or the former axis, up until that point. The former axis of the Earth is crossed at 51,511.43 miles in space, which is 13 times the polar diameter of the Earth. And why 13? Well, Ophiuchus is the 13th constellation. You got 13 men at the Last Supper, right? Actually, it was 11, because Judas had to go, with one woman, Martha, and Jesus, made up the 13. So it was 14, reduced by 1 to 13. And that's what Leonardo da Vinci painted. I'd always admired Leonardo da Vinci. Very big, handsome, strong man. And I'll tell you a story about him later. Now, where the two cross, that is the sight line of the descending passage from within the Great Pyramid, where it crosses the Earth axis is the same number, as I said before, 51,511.43 miles in space. That is the same number as the repose angle of human bones. So if you ground up your bones, dried them out and poured them in a pile in a bucket, it'll form an angle of the same as the face angle of the Great Pyramid, which is called the pi angle. Now, why the pi angle? Well, when you work on the pi angle, you can take the height of the pyramid and you multiply by 2, multiplied by pi, and you'll end up with the base measurement. Right? So human bones the same thing. It'll give you the pi angle because it's basically limestone. The limestone human bones. That's why when you buy a plate, oh, lovely, isn't it?
Bone china.
Bone china, you realise it's a ground up Chinaman. Didn't know that, did you? Better throw your bone china in the garbage bin.
That's where it all started.
That's where it all started. So, talking about the Great Pyramid, and then I talk about the time of the flood is confirmed by the Julian day. Now, when we're getting back to so far in time, we can be slightly out, but only within a few days, sometimes only a few hours. But Julian day 488114, and they're saying here it's the 20th of May, but in actual fact it is the 17th of April. The year in universal time is marked not as BC in astronomy. So if it was, say, 2 BC, it's marked as 1 minus 1 in astronomy. Because they take into account the 365 days that the Catholic Church missed out. So the number is 3376. So what is the number 3376? It is when the moon was created. Why? When Mars bumped into the Earth. Why? That caused a flood. That caused the impact, so devastating an impact of a 4,216 mile wide, which means carried away of the flood width of Mars in Greek. And that pushed out the moon, which has an iron core, and the iron core solidified last because it's hottest at 2200 degrees Celsius, and the molten material hit the 454 degrees Fahrenheit below zero and started to solidify on the outside like porridge forming, and all the gas come up from the inside of the pyramid, rather the inside of the molten material, which is the same as the Earth mantle with an iron core, and then solidified with huge bubbles bursting at the top. Some of the rims of the bubbles are 14,000 feet high. We're talking gigantic. If you take that, which I'm putting into this PowerPoint, the width of the moon is the width of Australia. And you've got the true impact craters, which were speckled by the hand of myself, onto the pyramid's shape that is laid out over the moon and laid out over Australia. So what you have then is a descending passage where the impact occurred when you lay the pyramid shape over the great width of the moon, which only faced the Earth at the same time because the 40-mile off-centre iron core solidified, and that's where it's set, causing the solid part of the moon to remain always facing magnetically towards the Earth, approximately at the same number as a pi angle. So the surface of the moon is exposed to the Earth by the same number as a pi angle, 515114.3% as a percentage of the Earth's, of the moon's surface. That's all you can see, 51% basically. Right. Now it's changed, it's up to about 58% because when we crossed over back into the northern part of the Milky Way galaxy, the moon flipped upside down, which we took photographs of, and it went at 180 degrees turn. We're still doing that today. It's flipping all over the place, depending on the time of the month. It's a bit like a woman, isn't it? That's why women have been locked into the menstruation of, and the sea itself produces the spores that come out of the coral. Right? It produces, same time of the month, when the moon goes overhead, it causes it to breed, which causes the fish to interact, which causes the fish to shit, because they're trying to get out their polyps, and they chew on the coral, and they turn that into sand. So we see then when Mars bumped onto the Earth, that this huge amount of water swirling around the Earth washed all the sand shit up onto the Sahara, calling it the Sahara, and the native deserts of Africa. Right? Didn't think of that, did you? Because human beings are stupid. They think they can outsmart God. I said, I'll come back as a baby and outsmart you. Do what you like. Measure anything. Do invent whatever you like. I will outsmart you. That's what I've done. So the Bible is full of shit. The Quran's full of shit. All the measurements of the Earth are full of shit. If we go to Google Earth, it'll prove that. Right? But the ones that are accurate is Magellan. Hello, anyone listening out there? Magellan is the only one that's accurate. We got a question the other day. Right? Was I wrong?
No, wasn't that at all.
I wasn't wrong anyhow. So
no, it's all right. Don't worry about it.
I was only ever wrong once.
Hey, Magellan was my nickname at school.
I was only wrong once, but I thought I was wrong and I wasn't. Never wrong. I'd like to be wrong once. What's it feel like? Write in and tell me, will you? Oh, but you can't. You're wrong all the time, so that doesn't work. So what we then have is a number that gives us when the moon was created, which is the same time. Why? Lunation 0. Right? It's got here the 27th of April minus 3376. I think I said that before. Lunation 0. And then the count is on. Right? So by the time you get up to the 18th of December 1922, when the English decided that they have to change this, right? And they reset all the lunation numbers back to 0 again. Right? Because the numbers were too high. Right? Like we've got 5-digit numbers or 6-digit numbers when it gets up to December. And we know by looking, which I've shown you, that my programs do all sorts of strange things. When I nail on something,
Yes.
It won't change.
No,
It'll just sit there no matter what I bloody will do, I cannot get it to change.
No, that's right.
I close the program and come back on again.
So it was stuck on December the 18th, 2014.
Right.
What,
Cannot change.
what blank, it was literally blank,
It was blank.
blank screens with the date, the time,
Yeah.
and just did not budge.
So what we have then is Obama, which I've talked about a little bit. We've got the 9th of October 2009. We've got 1260 days later. It was in the... now 1260 is the difference in age between you and I.
That's right.
So people start calculating out on those numbers, not realising we're talking sacredness here. So when I say a number like 1260, 1260 or whatever the case may be, that's the age between you and I.
That's right, 12.60 years.
So start calculating that when you're working out what Daniel and Revelation say.
Mm.
Right? You've got to take that into consideration. Also, when you're looking at the moon itself, it has a finite time. When we crossed over the Milky Way galaxy, it started doing strange things. Why? Go to your little sink and pour water in it if you're in the northern hemisphere and drain the water out. I suggest getting an old CD or an old DVD with a little half-inch hole in it. Put your finger on it, or put a bit of paper over it, something. Let the water flow up in your sink, and then when it all settled down, put a few sprinkles of something on top that'll float around like little boats, and then with a sharp knife, reach down and move the piece of paper away so you're not disturbing the water, and the water will start to drain out and it'll rotate backwards. You can prove that by looking up the Coriolis effect that the Africans would do in several years ago. Go back to 2005 and you'll find it's in the northern hemisphere in Africa. It was turning clockwise. Go to the new ones, the recent ones, the same Africans, right? People go there, they take a movie of it, and the water's turning the other direction. Because you're in the northern hemisphere, it's all reversed because you crossed over the Milky Way galaxy, which causes the Coriolis in the first place. I wasn't breathing there.
Hurricanes or the weather map.
Or the weather maps now. For a long time, they showed the weather maps, so they reversed them. Then they got up to the point where people hadn't get onto it, so they started to do proper satellite weather maps now, and you see that they are turning anti-clockwise in the northern hemisphere and clockwise in the southern hemisphere. And what happens then is they don't want you to find out who first told you. Lots of things out there I've been yapping on about for years.
Protocol number 14, we shall forbid Christ.
We will forbid
Christ.
Christ.
On that note, shall we have a Colburn lesson on cheerfulness?
I'll get back to me, Carl.
Yes, you keep tinkering along. Let me see how long we have to go. We're at 48 minutes, so let's read about cheerfulness from the Colburn. Thanks, Joel. He's been typing these lessons and uploading them to the Facebook. Comes from our own copy of the entire Colburn. From whence does... No. From whence does sadness come? Not from external circumstances, but from a worm within the heart. It can have no existence but for the sustenance it saps from your own feebleness of spirit. Sorrow there will always be, for the law decrees that it is essential for the tempering of the spirit. But sorrow is another adversary to conquer and cast out. It is not something to be accepted with resignation. The greatest benefit comes from rising above it. Therefore, let your face shine with cheerfulness. Hello! For a cheerful countenance will bring brightness even into the lives of the afflicted, and gladness even to the most distressed. The sad face, reflecting a gloomy heart, will deaden even the joyfulness of youth. Never go about among men with a sad face, for such is easily forgotten. Men care not for the countenance of gloom, but that which is pleasant is easy to remember. When a man who went smiling into the storehouse for barley distribution comes out frowning, he makes known his displeasure, and they who wait their turn blame the overseer for miscalculation. The people who deal with wise men have cheerful faces. Though your talents are such that you cannot appear great in the presence of others, you can approach greatness by being pleasant and agreeable. It is easy for a man to appear great when he is great, but difficult to appear pleasant and agreeable when he is neither. The sad air of despondency pollutes the pure air of life. The morbidness enthroned in the heart of a weakling magnifies his afflictions. It raises the loss of a needle to the loss of a fortune. His mind is burdened with trifles and therefore cannot give due attention to matters of consequence. The heart of a cheerful man is not depressed by matters of small account, and it remains free to deal with matters of greater importance. Sadness, gloom, and despondency ride upon the shoulders of the weakling. They sap his strength, his will, and his manliness. Sorrow and tribulations are the lot of all men, but their burden is lightened if carried with cheerfulness. It is well to think when calamity befalls, it is wholly a thing of evil. Is it altogether without purpose? The despondent heart invites the entry of cowardice and meanness. It permits that which is base to enter. The heart is cheerful. The heart that is cheerful has no accommodation for such things. Be not misled by the mask of piety when it hides the sad heart of the melancholy man. The face of the truly good, like the countenance of the wise, shines with the reflected light of the joyful soul within. The greatest sorrow and the most overwhelming misfortune cannot douse its brilliance. In the midst of affliction and sorrow, the things which once filled the heart with gladness do not all depart. Why then should these be offered as a sacrifice at the altar of sadness? Is this not exalting sadness far above its station? Is not such sacrifice futile and unproductive of good? Never do worry and sadness ease the burden of sorrow or alter the force of circumstances. It is cheerfulness, patience, and fortitude that lighten the burden and soften the blow. Like the miser with his hoarded gold, the sad man hugs his misery in solitude. He cannot bear to let it depart from him. It has filled his life. He has no friends. All have fled and left him to the enjoyment of his own precious sorrow. Sadness is not the child of thought. It knows no reason. It rejects the hand of friendship and the touch of compassion. It seeks only the company of those who will commiserate with its misery. The cause is not important, for sadness is the end in itself. Remove the cause, and sadness remains. Sadness is a state within, not the result of external circumstances. Whence comes the cause of all sorrows? Is it not from the process of living and from change? Then is it not all futile? Life you cannot escape, and are not all things and circumstances always changing? For this is the law. Therefore, man who is made according to the law and subject to the law must accept its decree. His life is governed by its ordinances, and from these there is no escape. The mountain will stand, however long you batter it with your head. Accept cheerfully that which cannot be altered by sadness. Thus its burden will be lightened. The sun shines brighter for the cheerful man. Only one sorrow is truly worthy of sympathy. Only one sorrow deeply stirs the heart. Only one sorrow is magnificent in its depth, and only one sorrow is really genuine, and that is the sorrow of the cheerful heart. If you know that sorrow and misfortune will cross your path because they are part of the pattern of life, then you are wise to prepare yourself to meet them. But it is unwise to seek them out. The testing tools of life are never stored away. If you are ignorant of the law, complain not of that about which you have no knowledge. Seek rather to understand the nature of the law, and thus knowing the meaning of life. He who understands the law knows why the pattern of life is as it is, why it is a design of light and shade. The law is unchangeable and unchallengeable, and none but a fool rants against that which cannot be altered. Man will never find contentment until he learns to accept the law as it has been established. It governs the whole earth and his life. To live in harmony with it is to live in peace. If in your weakness and waywardness you find the burden of the law intolerable, all your lamentations and wailing will not ease the load. It will do nothing but add to your distress. The law concedes nothing to the weaknesses of men. The nature of man is such that it accords with the law, and therefore it is unnatural to rebel against it. Thus man can achieve nothing. He achieves nothing except the stirring up of strife within himself. Is it not better to live in peace with the natural state of affairs than to tear yourself asunder by futile rebellion? It is not in your nature to suffer the blows of misfortune without being hurt, but it is within your nature and your duty to stand up to them like a man. Sadness for the sake of sadness robs a man of manliness, and the sorrowful man is unfit to embark on great enterprises. Therefore inflict not any self-induced ill upon yourself, nor lessen your abilities by indulgence in weaknesses of the spirit. From these nothing beneficial can be gained. There is sufficient real sorrow and suffering on earth to serve their end. Life is a pleasure to the cheerful man and a burden to the sad one. A cheerful face is always welcome. A cheerful spirit eases the burdens of many, and a cheerful soul is not severed from God. Here endeth the lesson from the Colburn on cheerfulness, right on time. We'll go out with Heiko once again singing Christ is Back, the one who has overcome all things as the pattern, the way, the truth, and the life, for we on the earth who know him.
And he's done it in a cheerful manner.
Totally.
You believe all that bullshit?
All right, let's ramp up Heiko here. Christ is Back. It's moving right along. I'll mute Mike when it's moved into about 20 seconds along the tape deck. And we hope that you all have a cheerful rest of the evening, day, whatever it is in your corner of the world. Let's have a cheery hearty-o and a hello! 310 from the one whose number is an 833 Asherah, which means happy.
The groves, eh?
Later, Gators.
Just said to me, he will send the sun. Who gonna reign on earth as the righteous king? Just said to me, the name of this man, his name is Jesus Christ, he will come back again. So I said to John, I love you, my father. I want to stay with you forever. And I promised John, I killed the devil within myself. Just a few days later, break my last chain. And it took not a long time until I found it on the World Wide Web. A man called Mr. Marshall. And I knew just after watching him for a little while. Christ is back. Christ is back on earth. 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 So turn your back on the devil, man. Who is hurting I and I? 'Cause together with the devil, man, man, the sun will never shine here. Until I found it on the World Wide Web. A man called Mr. Marshall. And I knew just after watching him for a little while. Christ is back. Christ is back on earth. Christ is back. Christ is back on earth. Christ is back. Christ is back on earth. Christ is back. Christ is back. His name is Brian Leonard Golightly Marshall. Christ is back as the Almighty Father. Christ is back. Oh, what a joy, what a joy, oh, what a joy. Christ is back. Christ is